2, 1.
Chapter 4. Terror in the Night. At the hospital, a nurse took Mina aside. "Your fiancé's had a breakdown," she said. "He was found on a train, raving about blood and demons. Try to help him forget." Mina gasped when she saw how haggard Jonathan looked. "Oh, Mina, I'm so glad you're here," he cried. "I can't tell you what I saw. I think I may have lost my mind." "My love," she whispered, wrapping her arms around him, "it's over now. Just concentrate on getting better so we can be married. And speaking of marriage," she added, hoping to cheer him up, "I have some good news about Lucy and Arthur." But back at home, things weren't going well for the happy couple. Arthur was very worried. "Lucy is so pale and tired all the time," he complained to their old friend Jack. "But she won't tell me what's wrong. She just says she's been having bad dreams. Jack, you're a doctor. Will you talk to her?" "Of course," promised Jack. Arthur wasn't exaggerating. When Jack visited Lucy, she was very pale and weak. Jack couldn't understand it. "I think there's something wrong with her blood," he confided to Arthur. "It's as though she doesn't have enough, but she hasn't been bleeding." "So what can we do?" interrupted Arthur impatiently. "I'll send a telegram to my old teacher, Professor Van Helsing," replied Jack. "He's a blood specialist. He'll be able to help." The professor arrived the very next day. By now, Lucy looked ghastly. Her skin was as white as chalk, and she couldn't get out of bed. The professor frowned. "What is it?" demanded Jack. The professor pointed to 2 small marks on Lucy's neck, almost hidden by her hair. "She needs an urgent transfusion," he cried. "Arthur, we'll use your blood. Roll up your sleeve." Arthur lovingly watched his blood flow into his fiancée. "I've never felt closer to anyone," he whispered. Already, the pink was returning to Lucy's cheeks. Next, the professor shut the window and pulled out a bunch of white flowers. A strong smell filled the air. He tucked some flowers around the window frame, then made the rest into a garland which he draped around Lucy's neck. She smiled peacefully and fell asleep. Later that day, Lucy's mother bustled in. "Ugh, garlic," she sniffed, opening the window and throwing out the flowers. In the morning, the men returned to check on Lucy's progress. To their shock, she was worse. Even her lips were white. The professor scowled when he noticed the missing flowers. As soon as they had given Lucy another transfusion, he shut the window and brought in more blooms. "But they smell terrible," protested Lucy's mother. "The smell is part of the cure," the professor told her gravely. "To remove them would be dangerous, more dangerous than you know," he added under his breath. That night, Lucy felt afraid to go to sleep. She heard something flapping at her window and sat up to see what it was. "Just a bat," she told herself, watching it fly away. "Are you all right, dear?" asked her mother, looking in. "I heard you moving around and—" Outside there was a piercing howl. Then something crashed against the window, shattering the glass. It was a huge wolf. Lucy's mother made a choking noise. She clutched desperately at her daughter, then collapsed. Her heart, never strong, couldn't stand the shock. As she fell, her fingers caught Lucy's garland. The flowers broke and scattered across the floor. A swirl of mist blew in through the broken glass and began to take shape. Lucy screamed.